Hi guys, this is Mrs. Mancini here. I am going to be doing this lesson on designing a zoo. So this is an art and math lesson. So they're going to be combining two different subjects into one. So this page is showing the lesson objective. So these are the things that you're going to be able to do by participating in the lesson and in the activity. So the first thing is that you'll be able to generate ideas and plan solutions in order to create original art. You will be able to use realistic sources of inspiration order to create in order to create art, sorry. You will be able to multiply side lengths of a square or a rectangle in order to find its area, and you will be able to add sides of a polygon together in order to find its perimeter. So area and perimeter are two things that we have already learned in class. So this is a little review as well as a activity that will challenge you in these two areas of math. So you're going to need a couple things. You're going to need some lined paper, not only to do your work on, but also if you're not able to print out the printout pages from the link that is going to be attached to this, then you'll need another piece of lined paper to draw your zoo on. You're first going to need a pencil. You might want to get some crayons, colored pencils, or markers if you have them. If not, no big deal. You don't need them. Also, if you have the printouts, you're going to need some scissors and some glue or tape. All right, so let's review a little bit of the vocabulary and some strategies for area and perimeter. So perimeter is the distance around the outside of a region. So for example, they give this is a not triangle, oh my gosh, a trapezoid with measurements for each side. So to find the perimeter of the trapezoid, all they did was they added up 4 plus 6 plus 4 plus 3, and they got a total of 17 centimeters for the perimeter. So if you took all these sides and kind of put them in a straight line end to end, it would equal the same as 17 centimeters. So here are some strategies that will help you solve for perimeter. So first thing is to identify key or signal words. So you're going to look for words that let you know you are solving for perimeter. So these are some words here that might mean that you're looking for perimeter. Now, it's important to keep in mind that they don't always mean that you're looking for perimeter, but they're just a good indicator that that's what you'll be doing. So you have perimeter, border, word around, fence. So for example, oh, I have to sneeze. I'm sorry. um, for example, what is the distance around the triangle? So because I said distance around, that tells me that we're looking for the perimeter and we're going to be adding all the sides together. Another important thing to do might, if you have a word problem especially, is to draw a picture. So, for example, they gave this problem about a farmer wanting to put up a fence, and they gave you the measurements for the sides. So this person here just kind of drew a rectangle and labeled two of the sides 8 feet and two of the sides 10 feet, just like in the problem. So now they can see what it would look like. And then finally, you will want to make sure that you have all the side measurements before you add up the perimeter. Um, so if there are any missing sides, you're going to need to solve for that. Okay. The other part I wanted to review was area. So the area is the covering of a region with unit squares or the measure of the inside of a region. So in these two pictures here with the window and the door, you can see on the outside you have perimeter. And then the inside is telling you all the area. And you can see the same thing for the door. So the perimeter is around the outside, and then the entire inside part is the area. And when it says unit squares like this is kind of what they mean here, these squares, or if you think of our graph paper that we use in class. Another important vocabulary term for to review is tiling. So that's the overlay of individual tiles together with no gaps or overlaps. So this looks kind of like our graph paper that we use in class. So for example, what they mean by no gaps is, let's say these three were colored in green, but this square was left open. That's a gap, so we couldn't find the area. by tiling. And this picture is showing you that tiling doesn't necessarily have to be used with the squares right here. It could be used with different shapes like this example here. All right, so some strategies to help you solve for area. When you look at area, especially when we're using graph paper, you can look at the shape in the form of an array. So just as a review, an array is an arrangement of equal groups of objects in rows and columns. So the rows go side to side, it's horizontal, and then columns go up and down, and that is vertical. And then these equations are just showing you how to use the number of rows and columns um, to find the answer of the total amount. So you do the same thing for area. You would count up how many are in each row and um, how many rows you have and how many are in each row, and you would multiply the two. And of course, when we are using multiplication, we know that we can do repeated addition as well. So for example, they have this rectangle here that they want to find the area for. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and in each row they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes. So that's 5 rows, 7 squares in each row. So they added 7 5 times, which gets you 35. And they have it here, 7 times 5 equals 35. All right, so now I'm going to switch over to my document camera to show you the activity that we're going to do for this lesson. So we are going to be creating a zoo. So the challenge is to use the materials on the next few pages to design a zoo. This is what they're talking about. I'll show you in a minute. Your zoo must follow the rules and regulations below. The goal is to include as many animal exhibits as possible. Make sure your exhibits are large enough. Here are the rules. 1. Your zoo must have a ticket house at the entrance. 2. Your zoo must have walkways for guests to travel between exhibits. 3. Your zoo must have at least one bathroom. 4. Your zoo must have as many animal exhibits as possible, but they must be large enough for the animals to be comfortable. 5. Everything at your zoo must fit inside the black lines that mark the borders of your zoo. Okay, so I'm going to show you what this will look like if you're able to print out this stuff here. If you're not able to, that's okay. I will show you what you can do instead. So either way, you're going to be able to look at this stuff on your computer screen because I'm going to include the link to the activity. So if you're able to print it out, you'll be able to have this design zoo challenge page with the requirements. You'll have a piece of graph paper. This is a page where you will write each animal that you're putting in your exhibit, and then you're going to write the perimeter and area that you have for that exhibit. And then you'll cut these out. So if you have a giraffe or an elephant exhibit, you can cut this out and tape it or glue it onto the exhibit that you draw on the graph paper. I'll show you what that looks like in a little while. And then this is what they were talking about. So in Rule 5, it says everything in your zoo must fit in the black lines that mark the borders. So these are the lines that they're talking about here, this thick black line. So if you're not able to print this stuff out, that's okay. Like I said, you'll be able to see this stuff online, and you're just going to get a piece of lined paper, and you'll just draw a zoo here. So you'll just kind of have to draw your box. Okay. Alrighty, and then you'll just have to kind of draw in your exhibits there. Okie doke. So the first thing you need to do is I would pick maybe 2 or 3 animals you want to start with. Let me just focus that a little bit better so you can see. Okay, I hope that's a little better. So I'm going to do the gorilla, the lion, and the kangaroo to start. Now, of course, I want to have as many as I possibly can fit, like it says in rule number 4, but I just want to have a few to kind of start with so I know how much space I'm going to need for those things. Okay, so, bless me. So I'm going to grab a clean piece of lined paper. Okay, so I'm going to start with the gorilla here. And I'm going to write down for the gorilla, I'm going to write gorilla. So I know this is where I'm doing that work. And the perimeter needs to be at least 20 units. You can have it bigger, but since we're trying to fit as many as possible, I am going to say I don't want it to be any bigger than this. But if you want to go bigger, that's fine. Your area has to be at least this big. So it has to be at least 25 square units. 25 square units. Okay, and again, you can go bigger than this if you want, but since we're trying to fit as many as possible, these are the two numbers I would kind of stick with. Okay, so the easiest way for me to try to get this here, because if you notice, they don't tell you how big the sides of your exhibits are going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a little picture here of a rectangle as just kind of a visual aid for myself. But I don't know what the lengths of these sides are going to be. I just know what the perimeter and the area is going to be. So, okay, well, I'm going to start with my area here because that's a little bit easier for me to work with. Because when I look for area, I need to multiply the length times the width. So when I look for area, I do the length side times the width. So I know my area needs to be 25 square units. So I need two numbers that when I multiply them together are going to give me 25. Well, I know that 5 times 5 is 25. So what I would do is I would write 5 and 5 here. And since I know that the side opposite the side I'm looking at is equal, I can fill in these two sides as well. So 5 over here and 5 over here. So this actually should be a square because we know squares have 4 equal sides, but that's okay. All right, so now I need to make sure that my numbers for my area equation are going to be the same or are going to give me the proper perimeter, because if they don't, then we need to pick two different numbers. So I know my perimeter. To get the perimeter, I need to add up all the sides. So I need to add side 1, side 2, side 3, and side 4. So these are my sides here. I already figured out the lengths of the sides here. So I know that my perimeter needs to be 20. So that means I need to add up 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. And if this is, hopefully this will be correct because then I can use these two numbers for my length and my width. So I know 5 plus 5 is 10. 5 plus 5 is 10. And then I know 10 plus 10 is 20. So this works. Okay. So what I do now is if I have my graph paper, I'm going to, oh no, just kidding. First, if I need to grab the sheet. Okay, so I know I'm going to use the gorillas. So I'm going to write gorilla here. And the perimeter we said was 20 units. And the area was 25 square units. I'm just going to write SQ for square. Okay. Now I need to grab my graph paper here. So you can do this kind of anywhere. I just like to kind of stick at the sides because eventually I'm going to cut this out. So I need to look at my work So my length was 5 and my width was 5. So I need to count 5 boxes down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I need to count 5 across. I'm going to start at this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And I'm just drawing dots here to kind of show me where my borders are going to be. And I'm just going to shade this in just a little bit because later I'm going to color this and cut it out and paste it or glue it into the border for my zoo here. So I'm just going to write a G here to remind myself that that's for my gorillas. Okay. So if you don't have this paper here, that's okay. What I want you to do is on the back side of the paper we drew our zoo on, you're just going to flip it over and write the side lengths here. So I'm going to write gorilla, and then my L is length, and my W is width, and both were 5. So that's going to show me, in addition to your work, that that's what your exhibit's going to look like. So then instead of measuring out like on the graph paper, I'm just going to draw a square in here. And then write G, or I could write gorilla there. Now, notice how I didn't put it right at the edge, because rule number 2 says my zoo must have walkways for guests to travel between exhibits. So if I put it right at the edge of the zoo, they couldn't walk around it. Okay, so that also goes for if you have the printouts. You need to make sure that there's space around your exhibit between the borders here, so that way your guests can move. And also make sure you remember that you're going to need a ticket house and a bathroom. So if you have the printouts, they have little pictures here for the ticket house and bathroom. They even have like a little gift shop if you want to use that. If you don't have a of the printouts, then you're just going to have to draw. So for example, I would just kind of draw my ticket house. I'll say this is my entrance here. So there's my ticket house. And maybe I want the bathroom here. So I'd write B for bathroom and T for ticket house. Okay, so there you go. So your goal is to have as many of these animals as you can. Okay, so um, I want you to use any of the other animals. I'm sorry, except for gorilla, because I've already done gorilla there. So I'd like for you to do any of the other animals except for gorilla. Okay. When you finish this work, I would like for you guys to take a picture of, if you have the printouts, I want you to take a picture of your zoo. So whenever you cut and paste everything in here into your zoo, I want you to take a picture of that. And whether or not, if you do or do not have the printouts, I still want you to take a picture of your work pages, however many you did. So you're going to have to make a document in the assignment sheet. I'm sorry, in the assignment on your Google Classroom. And if you forgot how to do that, you can go to, let me show you. You can go to your classroom. Okay, so we go here to Miss Ramsey's classroom. And in any of the pacing guides, towards the bottom, you will be able to watch this video right here. and it will show you how to take pictures of your assignments in case you forgot, and then um, add them to your assignment in the classwork tab. Okay, so I am so excited to see your zoos, and please let me or Mr. Ramsey know if you have any questions or you need help with your zoo or the work. And have fun with it. Make it colorful, make it fun. See how many animals you can fit in there, and just have fun with it. All right. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.